Hi everyone, welcome back. It's my AK Swedish Whiskey Girl, and today we are here with Scallywag, the chocolate edition. This retails for around, I think, £55. It's one of 3,000 bottles, so it's a limited batch. It is at 48% and it is 100% matured in sherry casks, I think Oloroso. And yeah, so Scallywag is a blended malt from the company Douglas Lane. I also have my 10-year-old Scallywag here, and I thought we'd make a little comparison. So Scallywag is blended with single malt from Speyside, I think with, is it Macallan, Glenrothes, and a few distilleries like that. Can't remember all of them off the top of my head. And then they do this chocolate edition as well. It's, let's see, so this one's 10 years old, this one's a non-age statement, and I think, yes, so the 10-year-old also sits at 46%. Well, it'll be very interesting to compare them. They sent me this bottle because today is actually World Chocolate Day. It's so hard to keep track of all these theme days, but I'm very glad they reminded me because I also got some pralines, so I can't wait to have this whiskey with those. Because whiskey and pralines or chocolates work so well for me, especially because I really like dark chocolates. Cheese is another one that's really good. And I mean, if you like whiskey and chocolate as well, I'd love to hear your recommendations if there's a specific chocolate and a specific whiskey do you think go well together. Sometimes, personally, I think dark chocolate with some smoky whiskey is lovely, but I know sherried whiskies and chocolate of any sort seems to be a favourite. So let's start by having a little look on the nose. It's almost like dark berries and leather. Quite soft. Not this kind of super punchy sherry notes, but definitely like darker tones. A bit like a wine cellar. Quite fruity. I think it's slightly more fruity than I thought it would be. And then a bit of grassiness as well. It's that kind of berry notes, the fruitiness, which is quite fresh fruits. Maybe like plums, but then also grassiness. Maybe a bit like wet moss and wine cellar. Before I taste it, I'm just going to have a little nose of the 10-year-old to compare as well. Oh, I haven't tried the 10-year-old in a while, but it seems a little bit brighter, if that makes sense. The chocolate edition seems a bit almost, what's the word? A little bit toned down, but in a way where I was gonna say it almost tastes like the chocolate malt is, or the chocolate edition is older, but it's maybe not. Now it has a bit of a like tart berry notes. It's like unripe blackcurrants. And the 10-year-old is just a little bit more, has a little bit more character to it, but it's more golden and probably a little bit more like apple pie. Yeah, so it almost, on the nose, seems to me like the 10-year-old would give you more of a rounded flavour. And the chocolate edition might be a little bit more toned down, almost a bit more elegant. And like floral grassy, but let's have a taste. Sláinte Skål. What I quite like about these is that they're not sherry bombs. They still have like a nice balance of flavours in them. This one for me has a bit of a grassy youthfulness that I think you can sometimes find in younger spirits. Definitely has a bit of a floral touch to it. A little bit of a spiciness as well. But also a bit of almost a bit of kind of wine cellar on the palate as well, because it has like an earthy note that mixes in with the grassiness. Let's try it compared to the 10-year-old. So Sláinte Skål again. It's interesting, I think you can recognize the character from both of them, that they're of a similar type, because the 10-year-old for me today also has that kind of slight grassiness. I think one of the good things about both of them actually, is that spice and the grassiness coming through, that kind of meets up with the fruitiness, makes it, if you have it with chocolate, a little bit more interesting, because they have a few different layers to them in the whiskey. It just means that depending on the chocolate, you might get more of the spice or less of the spice, you get more of the fruitiness, less of the fruitiness. So it's a bit of that kind of thing that you quite want if you have different, like if you do a chocolate tasting at home. I've had the pleasure of attending a few chocolate tastings, and I plan to do my own here in Edinburgh when things can open up again. But when you have different chocolates, to see how they work with the same whiskey, because you get so many different things from each of them. Now the leather note's really coming out on this one. But definitely has a darkness to it that I don't find in the same way on the 10. Then it's just more golden in a way. They have the same slight spice, which is like the cinnamon, it's like a tingling spice, like almost a chilling note. And they both have a bitterness in it that I think would go well with chocolate. I'm just trying to figure out, because obviously if it's a chocolate edition, what kind of chocolate I would pair with it. I mean, it would be interesting to have something quite creamy, like a milk chocolate, because it would be interesting to see what that bitter note does and the spice. But at the same time, if you have a dark chocolate note, because the bitterness in this, I would say, is quite reminding me of the bitterness you can find in dark chocolate. So the way I usually work with pairings is either contrasting or complementing, and that would definitely be a tone that is complementing in both the whiskey and the chocolate. But a good thing about chocolate is as well, because it has this kind of fats in it, that it coats your palate and then can turn down the alcohol a bit, so that you can taste the whiskey a bit differently. So if you have someone who doesn't like whiskey, or they might like the flavours but think it's a bit too strong, you could also try and give them a piece of chocolate. So you have the chocolate first, really taste it, have a sip of the whiskey, and just see what you think. Usually it's a good idea to have whiskey first, then chocolate, and then the whiskey again, just to see how much it changes, but yeah. Leather and grass on the nose for me now. And the 10 feels more sweet and fruity, but not by a lot, but definitely has another character. But they're quite, yeah, you can kind of see how they're in the same category and same kind of origin. Definitely also one of those whiskies that you kind of want to sit in a leather armchair with a good book on a roaring fire, because it has that darkness to it. I mean, I'd love to hear what you think of Scallywag. If you have tried it before, I have reviewed the 10, I think. It's becoming such a lot of whiskies that now that I'm not completely sure, but I think I've reviewed it, so if you are interested about that one, check that out as well. I hope you've enjoyed this video and that you'll stay around for the next ones. If you haven't subscribed already, I'll of course be really happy if you would consider it. And if you want to support the channel, I have put my affiliate links in the description here below to Master Malt, the Whisky Exchange and the Scotch Malt Whisky Society. And as always, I want to say a massive thank you to my wonderful supporters on Patreon. I'm so grateful to have your support. But I hope you're all having a lovely day and happy World Chocolate Day, and I'll see you in the next one. Sláinte Skål!